Hello, I'm Mil Arcega, and this is the Correspondents on Voice of America. And hello, I'm Mil Arcega from Washington. You're listening to the Correspondents. And right now, top of the story, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani came to Washington this week to thank American taxpayers and to praise U.S. efforts to fight terrorism in his country. He also asked President Barack Obama to slow down the pace of troop withdrawal and give Afghanistan more time to train its own troops. Here's VOA White House correspondent Luis Ramirez.
It's been America's longest war, and President Obama has been pushing for it to end. But Afghanistan, he says, remains a dangerous place, and after meetings with Afghan leaders at the White House Tuesday, announced 9,800 U.S. troops will stay through this year.
We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help Afghan security forces succeed.
Mr. Obama's original plan was to cut the number of U.S. troops almost in half by the end of this year and down to about 1,000 by the end of next year. That part of the plan, Mr. Obama said, remains on track.
And joining us for more now is VOA congressional correspondent Cindy Sain, along with international broadcaster Roshan Nurzai from VOA's Afghan service. And also we have the managing editor of VOA's Diwa radio service, Nafis Takar. Welcome to all three of you. Roshan, I'm going to start the discussion with you. The visit this week by Afghan leaders, Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah, the chief executive, it seemed to be a different visit. Seemed to be very different in terms of tone, in terms of the relations that these leaders have with this administration compared to, of course, Hamid Karzai. Did you notice that as well?
Of course. I think there is a major shift in how foreign policy is conducted in Afghanistan. With President Ghani reaching to China, basically trying to engage Pakistan, trying to engage all these regional powers, including Saudi, and also he is trying to revitalize partnership with the United States. He has signed the bilateral security agreement in the second day in his office. So that's a major shift.
So Afghanistan seems to be reaching out to the rest of the world.
Right. I mean, our foreign policy, Afghanistan's foreign policy is based on cooperation. President Ghani thinks that if he can engage all these regional powers, international powers, he can achieve peace in Afghanistan, which is one of his major goals in internal politics and also in the way he ran the campaign. Right. The elections campaign.
And Cindy Sain, Ashraf Ghani was also well received in Congress. He did have a message there. What did he tell Congress, and what did Congress think of this gentleman?
Well, he did get a very warm reception, Mil, and I think he sort of got the I'm not Karzai bonus because relations had gotten quite strained, testy, and a lot of lawmakers really felt that some of Karzai's remarks had been anti-American rhetoric, was scorching. So they welcomed President Ghani, and he had a very winning way. He knew his audience quite well. He thanked America for what he called its sacrifice of troops. He thanked American taxpayers for the money, and that was quite well received.
In terms of a fresh start, this was a good one.
Yes, and you had Republican House Speaker Boehner saying that he was a trusted partner already. He also said that it was much appreciated that he mentioned the role of women in Afghanistan. And you had Democrat Nancy Pelosi saying the same things, that we say in America, when women succeed, the country succeeds. The same goes for Afghanistan.
Nafis, I want to get you in this conversation as well. What was your general impression? What was your takeaway from the visit by these two leaders from Afghanistan?
I agree with my colleagues. I think he delivered a hope back to his country. He repaired the damaged relations between America and Afghanistan. And third, he was very much positive. He got the wish list that he brought with himself. He got the commitment from the U.S. leadership in security and continuous aid to Afghanistan for at least coming 3-4 years. So these are some good things. And the other thing, as my other colleague said, he got respect in the Congress. I was counting, and he got 18 standing ovations from the congressmen.
Right.
And every time he was appreciated for the job he was doing back in Afghanistan, and he also changed the whole narrative about Afghanistan. This thing was very much in the newspapers, in the media for the last 30, 20 years, that Afghanistan has become a graveyard of empires. But he changed that narrative. He said that Afghanistan will become the graveyard of Al-Qaeda. This was something, a very much new thing. He coined a very new term. He changed the narrative. And then again, he called on the Muslim leaders and the intellectuals that silence is not the answer to extremism in the Muslim world. So I think these were the great things that he uttered during his briefings and his talks with leaders in America.
So Roshan, let me ask you about this power sharing agreement. How effective do you think it will be, this combination of Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah, in terms of negotiating some kind of a peace deal or terms with the Taliban?
I think it will be very important, particularly in building consensus in Afghanistan, to having all these different powers, these different forces to come together to a conclusion that we need peace. And both leaders, basically, they support peace process in Afghanistan. Well, of course, there are differences, and of course, there are some issues within the government, but it looks like they are learning how to deal with it and how to solve those issues and how to cooperate with each other. And that is giving us hope, particularly to the international community and to the Afghans. And I think it won't be that easy because both of the leaders, they accept that, but I think they don't have any alternative. They have to work together. And in terms of peace, I think they agree that Afghanistan needs peace and peace should come to Afghanistan. Of course, there are different approaches and they have to come to a conclusion. But I think it's a positive sign that both of them are giving green signal to the peace talks, to the peace process, to cooperation, to the regional powers, to the neighboring countries, and involving international community.
And Cindy, part of the way that the Afghans hope to achieve peace is by asking the United States to extend its troops in Afghanistan a little bit longer, slow down the pace of this drawdown. But the president is getting heat already on that point. Almost an "I told you so." You shouldn't have tried to remove troops from Afghanistan as quickly.
Yes,
what are you hearing?
That's right. Yes. Some Republicans are saying, well, we don't want to make the same mistake that was made in Iraq. And as much as they appreciated and welcomed President Ghani, they had a few sort of little criticisms for President Obama in there. But they liked hearing what President Ghani said, that Afghanistan wants to become more self-reliant, does not want to be dependent on the United States, saying it hopes to be self-reliant in 10 years, and even using sort of the funny expression, we don't want to be the lazy Uncle Joe.
Right.
And used humor a lot to win over the lawmakers.
Nafis, in order for Afghanistan to be more self-reliant, they have to find a way to work with the Taliban, don't they? How strong is the Taliban today in Afghanistan?
Taliban in Afghanistan are not that strong, but it's a fact that still it is a force. It is a force that can be addressed militarily or through political dialogue. And I think Ashraf Ghani has chosen the negotiations. He wants to start negotiations with them, and for that reason, he is trying to engage Pakistan. And that's why he mentioned it several times during his briefings with different leaders and also at different fora. And he said that the problem is not with the Taliban, the problem is with Pakistan.
Okay.
He said this, and he wants that if Pakistan will play a positive role, Taliban could be involved in the Afghan society in a peaceful way.
Okay,
so,
thank you, Roshan. 10 seconds. I know you wanted to say something. Very quickly, you got the last word.
To add to Nafis's remarks, he said that there is like 13 years hostility between these two countries, and that should be addressed. And also he mentioned that we cannot defeat Taliban through military. We have to find
negotiation.
We have to negotiate with them and he mentions that he called them political opposition.
But we are optimistic at the start, so let's hope it stays that way. Thank you so much, Roshan and Nafis. And Cindy, you are back for our third segment, but we're going to take a quick break right now. And when we come back, we'll have the latest for you on the Middle East powder keg that is Yemen. This is The Correspondents on Voice of America.
I am Sheikh Asali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today, we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
I wanted to present music and a side of American culture that is most important to me, that is a part of who I am. They're gonna get some incredible performances. That's one of the things I love, bringing these artists in so you can get to see them do what they do. It's soul music, and that's what music is. It's that which comes from the soul.
How do you see the world?
I see countries in turmoil.
I see our planet changing.
I see people at peace.
No matter how you see the world, you'll get an unbiased and uncensored view of it on Voice of America. On television, radio, online, and mobile. In more than 40 languages all day, every day. Millions of people tune us in.
How do I see the world? On Voice of America.
And welcome back to The Correspondents on Voice of America. I'm Mil Arcega in Washington. Yemen's foreign minister warns Iran could dominate his country if Iran-backed Shia Houthi rebels take control of major cities in Yemen. That warning provoked a very strong military reaction from Iran's regional rival, Saudi Arabia. We have more now from VOA's Zlatitsa Hoke.
Houthi rebels are marching on the coastal city of Aden after taking control of Yemen's capital Sana'a and the central city of Taiz. Aden is a port city at the entrance to the Red Sea. Thousands of ships pass by it on their way to other Red Sea ports and the Suez Canal in the north. Shia Houthi rebels, backed and armed by Iran, they now appear poised to take control of the whole country. Their campaign is raising concern, especially among Sunni Muslim tribes in Yemen and neighboring Sunni-dominated Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia launched airstrikes against Houthi positions late Wednesday.
And for more now, we are joined by VOA's Victoria Maki, who has reported extensively on the deteriorating situation in Yemen. And we're also joined by Omar Fikeki, assignment editor for Radio Sawa, our VOA sister service in the Middle East. Welcome to both of you. Omar, I'm going to pose the first question to you. Yemen has gone from basically a staunch U.S. ally to essentially what is a failed state. How did things get so bad in Yemen?
Well, actually, if we go back to 2011 when Ali Abdullah Saleh, the former president, was ousted, it was actually a vacuum. Since then, there has been a vacuum of power. No one actually stepped up to take full position. From what we hear from our sources, the government since Ali Abdullah Saleh has been really weak. It could not provide enough or basic services to people like electricity and gas and food. Then the Houthis took the chance and started their own campaign to take over the country.
So essentially, weak governance sort of found some opportunists in the form of the Houthi rebels, and they took over. Victoria, I guess here in the West, what we're seeing is almost an oversimplification of what this issue is. We see it painted in terms of of Sunni versus Shia. In fact, they're talking about this as a proxy war between Sunni Arabs and Sunni Shia. And Shia Arabs as well. Are we in danger of oversimplifying this issue when we boil it down to those two religious sects?
You have to be really careful in discussing Yemen because it is such a politically complicated, very complicated country to understand, to look at, to analyze. A lot of the folks I've talked to, a lot of the experts, especially here in Washington, including the former ambassador Barbara Bodine, who I was at an event with yesterday, have really urged caution in separating this along Sunni-Shia lines. There's a lot more involved. Yemen is very tribal. Yemen has a lot of economic problems, very high poverty rate, above 50%. So there's a lot at play here. It's not just that Sunni-Shia divide.
But now that we have the Saudi Arabia with this coalition, a 10-nation coalition, basically attacking these Houthi rebels, is that the wrong approach? I mean, should they be dealing with this in a more political fashion, or is the military approach the correct one? Either one of you could answer that for me.
Well, as of yesterday, when we talked to our sources and people on the ground, we hear that most people, at least in Sana'a and Aden, are for the air attacks, airstrikes, but they want it to be fast. They want it to be specific to the Houthi areas, because after all, if it's sectarian or not, or political or not, people want to go back to their normal life, and they want it fast.
And Victoria, is it specific enough? Is it fast enough? How long do you think this whole thing's going to last?
I think the military intervention is not going to last long. I mean, there just really isn't. Saudi can't continue this air campaign without destroying so much of Yemen's already very weak infrastructure. So it's not in anybody's interest for that to continue. I think you're really going to have to look at a diplomatic solution. It is not easy in Yemen to have a diplomatic solution, but really that's what it's going to come down to. You have to get everybody to the table.
Omar, so let's, before we even get to a diplomatic solution, before we get to a military solution, I have to ask you, how are the people in Yemen dealing with this? I know you've been in touch with some people.
Yeah, definitely. We've been covering the situation 24/7 for years now. They are suffering from lack of basic services. Electricity cuts off 4 to 6 times a day, 2 hours, at least 2 hours a time. The lines to get gas are getting longer and longer by the hour. Food is getting high prices of food and really basic needs. People are suffering on the ground, and that's why I said they want it to be fast and they want a real solution to the problem.
It's a very difficult time for Yemenis right now. So we don't know who's in charge right now. What do you see as the major challenge, Victoria? You've seen the deterioration of Yemen. What do you see as the major challenge there for this country to establish itself again?
They really have to figure out what is going to bring the different parties. I mean, you've got a lot of voices that need to be heard and want to be heard. What is the thing that's going to bring them all to the table to talk about what a solution is for Yemen? It's a very difficult country to govern. It's got a lot. It's highly decentralized. It has been for a very long time. The international community needs to figure out if they're going to have a role in this, what is going to get them to the table. I suspect it's got to be something to do with improving development in Yemen, improving the economic situation, giving the Yemenis more.
But they need to do it fast. Thank you so much to both of you for informing us on this. Thank you, Victoria and Omar. We're going to take a quick break right now, but when we come back, the 2016 race for the White House now has its first official candidate. Who's next? And just a reminder, we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts, questions, and comments on our Facebook page. The address is VOA The Correspondents. We'll be right back.
We are able to touch on things that are important to people on an everyday basis. We hope that our viewers are getting inspired when they watch our show. They're getting a view of the world from a different perspective, things that perhaps are not in their immediate vicinity. Today, I could put in on the show something that is a little different, a little unique, and this gives me that inspiration to come to work.
Wherever you are, Voice of America is on air, reaching more than 130 million weekly, worldwide, in more than 40 languages. Online, social media, and breaking news from around the world. On the go, dozens of new features on popular platforms with new apps and trending topics. Voice of America, on air, online, on the go.
Hamilton Live is a live audience performance. With live music, you have that interaction. There's nothing like getting that immediate feedback from the folks that you're performing to. They feel it and they respond back to you. You see it in their eyes. You know that you're connecting with them. Like if any form of communication, it's that response that you get back.
And welcome back to the Correspondents on Voice of America. I'm Mil Arcega in Washington. And so it begins. Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas became the first official candidate for the 2016 U.S. presidential election. VOA's national correspondent Jim Malone has more.
Ted Cruz made his presidential announcement before a large and enthusiastic crowd at Liberty University in Virginia.
I am announcing that I'm running for President of the United States.
Cruz said as president, he would repeal President Barack Obama's signature health care law. On foreign policy, Cruz vowed to aggressively confront the so-called Islamic State. Cruz is a favorite of conservative Tea Party supporters for leading a partial government shutdown over the president's health care law in 2013.
And for more, we are joined now by VOA national correspondent Jim Malone, whose report we just heard, and by congressional correspondent Cindy Sain, who joins us again to talk politics this time. Jim, if optics are important in politics, how did Ted Cruz do?
Well, it was a bit of an evangelical feel to his announcement.
But there were a lot of people, so.
Sure, but the reason is that in the early going of the Republican primary, you need to appeal to various conservative constituencies within the primary, within the party, and he's looking at not only the Tea Party folks, as I mentioned, but also the sort of conservative evangelical voters who vote on social issues. One quick point, though. Washington Post this week, little tidbit about Ted Cruz. He was born in Canada.
Yes.
Some people would question whether he's eligible to run. Actually, under the Constitution, he is because his mother was an American citizen. But Ted Cruz, as a child, was checking into his eligibility to run for president.
Already.
Ted Cruz has been thinking about this for a while.
For a very long time.
Yes, indeed.
Cindy, okay, Ted Cruz has been thinking about this for a long time, but a lot of people don't see him as a very credible candidate. He's sort of divisive. How do his colleagues, many of whom are planning on running as well, how do his colleagues in Congress perceive him? Ted Cruz.
Well, that's right, Mil. He is not particularly well loved, I wouldn't say, in the Senate. And he has played quite a remarkable role over the past couple of years with the battles over health care and over the budget and so on. Often coming over to the House side, which is very unusual, you know, for the Senate and the House to sort of stir up House members. And he was instrumental in having them sort of keep their hard stance and actually trigger the government shutdown. So, and he's done prominent things like in the Senate, he's held long speeches where he even read the Dr. Seuss children's book, Green Eggs and Ham.
There's a lot of things that are likely to come back and haunt him. I mean, we still have 20 months before the elections, right?
Right, and his style, even as he announced it, you know, he started out, he kept saying, imagine, and he described both of his parents' biographies, and imagine a young boy, his own biography. It's sort of almost like an evangelical preacher.
Well, from the start, he's had national ambitions. He exploded on the scene in 2012. He's a first-term senator, so he was shooting for national goals right away. I had an analyst tell me the other day, he thinks he's got about a 10% chance to win the nomination. But look, in the early going, if you can get some of these early conservative conservative supporters to rally behind you in some of these early key states like Iowa, you can vault yourself into the mix, because we're going to have a crowded field with no apparent frontrunner. Jeb Bush is in there, perhaps, or likely. Scott Walker, governor of Wisconsin, but little known nationally. So there's lots of opportunities here. This is going to be a long, very contentious, and very expensive Republican race.
Right, and frankly, I don't. A lot of people really don't see him as going all the way, but he does have an outsized influence on the party, doesn't he? Does he not?
Well, he has so far, but as Cindy noted, you know, Ted Cruz has critics. They're not all Democrats. A lot of Republicans have had some issues with the way he's operated, so he's not made a lot of friends within his own party, and that's because a lot of them also see him as very ambitious. We're seeing that unfold now. He's going to have some competition, though, for these conservative activists, a lot of different candidates out there, and Republicans are looking for a fresh face, but I think they're also looking for a winner in 2016.
Cindy, let's talk about the other side. I mean, the presumptive Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton, has a lot of challenges ahead for her as well. Is it? I mean, it can be all positive for her, knowing that she is the. I mean, this is her race to lose, basically.
Yes, that's right, Mel. And of course, we do have Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, who a lot of more of the progressive Democrats are urging and calling on her to run.
But she's not likely to run, right?
She's not likely to run. She keeps saying, you know, what do I have to say? I'm not running. How many ways can I say this? And I think. I would say she's had even more influence maybe than Cruz has, sort of on the issues that the party, you know, of helping middle class, of helping workers, consumer rights, and that kind of thing. I think that she realizes that she can be very influential right where she is right now in the Senate.
On the first major controversy that she faced, Emailgate, how did she do, Jim?
Well, you know, most of her defenders say she did okay, but I noticed there was a CBS News, I think New York Times poll just out perhaps last night that shows that she has suffered a little bit in terms of her public approval ratings because of that controversy. Look, on one hand, she's got a great advantage, right? She's the far and away frontrunner for the Democratic nomination. That sometimes isn't always a great gift, because sometimes you need that competitive edge
to keep you sharp.
To keep you sharp, and that's another reason why a lot of people want her to jump in the race sooner, especially among Democrats. But look, that Democratic divide, Obama, Clinton from 2008, it's not completely gone away. Progressives, as Cindy noted, you know, there's this yearning for Elizabeth Warren, somebody else to get in the race. That's going to continue for the foreseeable future, but she's still in a very strong position.
So what do you both see as a major issues as we head into 2016? What do you think we're going to be talking about in the media? Is it going to be Iran? Is it going to be what's going on in the Middle East?
I think national security is big. I think the economy is big. Hillary Clinton has a historical problem, though, too. Most of the time, a party cannot hold the presidency for 3 straight terms. She's got to somehow separate herself from Barack Obama, but take his good points in terms of making an argument why she should be elected in 2016.
Okay, last question to both of you. We're still 20 months away from November 2016. I mean, you guys have covered a few elections along the way. Is this the cycle happening sooner and sooner?
It seems like it is each time, and there was a Senate debate this week where we're probably going to have 4 Republican senators competing, and it spilled right out as to whether money should go for defense, whether we should pay down the debt,
and it's already
it's already in full swing.
It's become a 2-year election cycle now, just the way it works.
All right. Well, we've got 20 months to talk about this. And I'm sure I'm going to be hearing a lot more reports, and I'm particularly looking forward to your analysis on what's going on there in the electoral field. So thank you so much, Cindy, and thank you so much, Jim. Thank you, everyone. That is our show for this week. But we will be back again same time next week for another edition of The Correspondents. In the meantime, stay up to date with the latest news from around the world. Visit our website at voanews.com. I'm Mil Arcega. For now, so long from Washington.